All right, hello everyone. So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going over the software, user interface, and how these tutorials are going to function. So this is the main screen on Rhino 6 for Mac. If you open up the software, you should see something like this. If not, make sure you click on these little templates dialog box here, and then you should see the standard templates. Also, the way that the mouse is going to appear, just so you can know for your own visual sake, if I forget to say I'm right clicking or left clicking, if I left click, it looks like this. If I right click, it looks like this. So you see the little circle that comes up around the clicking mechanism. That's going to show you what I'm doing. So we're going to start off using small object inches for this project. And it clicked underneath it right there, and it makes it a default template. So anytime I open a new model, it automatically opens. So now I'm going to maximize my screen here, and we'll go over the user interface. First, I want to start off by showing you how to control the window with your mouse. So you've got these different views here. The top view is, of course, the top of the object, and these are all in the principal orthographic view mode. So there's no perspective being indicated on any of these three windows, versus this one is in perspective. So if you click on any of these windows, you'll see this changing colors, which indicates that you are now focused on that window. So I'm going to go ahead and double click where it says top up here, and that brings the top view into the full screen mode. I can go back by clicking on this little icon right here, but I always like to start my drawings from a top view. All right, so with this, you're going to want to know how to zoom and pan. Zoom, basically roll your mouse wheel. If you hold down the right click, you get pan. Okay, so that's all you need to know basically for the principal orthographic views. But in perspective, you can orbit by right-clicking and holding it down. What that means, of course, is that you're rotating the three-dimensional axis. And then if you hold down Shift and right-click, then you can pan. So orbit and pan. Just right-click by itself, holding it down, and then Shift and right-click. So those are the ways that you navigate the screen when you're zooming in and out on things, and of course the wheel zooms in and out. Let's go back to our principal orthographic views here. I'm going to start by drawing a little object and then showing what the commands do in reference to that object. So I'm going to just draw a rectangle, and the way you can enter commands is either by clicking on one of these graphic icons or by typing it in manually. So I like to type in manually, so I'm going to do rectangle. So I just start typing rectangle anywhere, and then hit enter when you see your command. And then we're going to go ahead and click and drag out a little bit here. You can do it anywhere. It doesn't matter. And then I'm going to double click into the top view here, so we're just looking at our object. Okay, so the rest of the interface here, over here on the right-hand side, are kind of your properties area where you've got your layers and your viewport properties, and there's other functions in here that we may or may not get into. But the most relevant things to know are grid snap, ortho, smart track, gumball. Those are things you're going to be using, turning on and off every once in a while. So grid snap makes the crosshairs grab a spot on the grid here. So if I type rectangle again, you can see that that little dot bounces onto the grid. So I'm going to just click there, and then it'll automatically snap to the grid. And knowing the grid sizes will ensure that you know how big you're making this thing. So if I wanted to make it 2.5 inches by 2 inches, I'd click there because each one of these grids is an inch. The larger, major grid lines are an inch. Minor ones are 1/4 of an inch. So that's grid snap. Ortho ensures things are perpendicular, basically used for drawing straight lines. If it's turned off and I try to draw a line, just using the line tool by typing line, and then I click, trying to draw a straight line is pretty difficult. You can hit shift and it will make the line straight and kind of temporarily toggles on and off ortho, which is just a preference if you want to use it that way. But I leave it on most of the time just so I don't have to keep hitting shift. And then if you draw a line, you just click and it won't let you draw at an angle. It's only straight. The Smart Track is for lining up things, basically. So if I have Smart Track turned on and I want to draw a line, say to this point right there without grid snap on, from here to there, how do I make it stop? So if I draw a line, enter, and start to go out this way, how do I know to make it stop? If I don't click or anything, but just come down here with the crosshair and touch it, and you see that line that comes up there, and then it goes perpendicular. That's what we call smart tracking. Okay. It's for lining stuff up. Then we have this, which is called the gumball. And what the gumball is if you select something, it allows you to modify it. So if I wanted to move this line over, something like that, or move this rectangle around, when I click on it, this comes up, and this is the gumball. And so if I click on this arrow here, I can move it that way. This arrow here, I can move it up. This is for scaling, so I can warp it to make it different sizes, and you can do this with 3D objects too. So if I wanted to rotate it around, because I have ortho on, it's only letting me rotate it at 90-degree angles. But if I hit shift, I turn ortho off, and then I can rotate it at any angle I want. So that's the gumball. And then one of the more important other things to have set up properly is the object snaps down here. You may have noticed that I'm capable of grabbing things at a very precise location, and that's just because of these object snaps. So if I wanted to draw a line from the middle of this rectangle, how do I find the middle? Object snaps being enabled helps you do that. So if I draw a line, and I want it right on that midpoint there, you see that little dialog box comes up and says midpoint when I hover over the midpoint. If I wanted to put it on an endpoint, it would do it like that. If I don't have those on and I'm still in the line tool, it won't grab on anything. So if I wanted to draw from the center, I can kind of hover over on the line, but not in the midpoint or the end point, and it'll highlight that center point, and then I can draw from there. And that's good for circles and other stuff like that. So you want to make sure that you have the same object snap setup that I have here. Some other things that are important. This zoom with the 4 arrows, zoom extents, is really helpful for resetting your camera to make it interact more with the objects that you're dealing with. So if I click on that, it makes everything go right in the center. Where that's really helpful is if I have a 3D object and when I'm trying to orbit around, it's acting all funny. If I click on this, then it'll orbit just my object. So it makes things a lot easier. So just every once in a while, if you're having problems with your camera, just click on that or type zoom extents. Or I'm sorry, zoom, enter, extents. Okay, so that's what you need to know up here. Also, you can turn on and off things with the little light bulb. So if I click on this and I want it to go away, I click on the light bulb. If I want it to come back, I can right click. So that's a way of, if I wanted to just be working with this one line right here, I could click on these 2 sections and toggle it to hide. And then I can click on the zoom extents, and now I am focused right on that one little object. and then I can bring back the other ones, type zoom extent or hit zoom extents again, and now I'm back to dealing with the whole object. So if you're dealing with creating a small section of detail on an object, it's good to be able to hide things and bring things back. Other things that are kind of interesting and different are selections. So you can select things by clicking on them, right? You can select things by clicking and dragging from right to left, which will grab anything that it touches. You can shift to add things to the selection, or you can go from right to left. Like if I just wanted to grab this little line, yes, I can click on it, but if I had multiple lines, that would be even more difficult. So I can go from left to right with my box by clicking and dragging left to right, and then it only grabs the object that it completely encircles. See, only grabs that one object. And that too is helpful if you're trying to, draw a detail on an object and you want to just select that object and then hide everything else. And if I wanted to hide everything else, I could click and hold down my left click on that and then go to isolate objects, and it'll automatically hide everything except for that one object. I know this is a lot of information, that's why it's a video, so hopefully if you're getting confused, you're pausing and you're starting it back a little bit further at several points to catch all of this detail. But as we're using the program, you will also figure out this stuff because I will use these tools and you'll see what they're capable of. All right, so with that said, we've got our tools, we've got all of our understanding of what's surrounding this and what it does. I think at this point that's enough for the introduction. So the next video I'll be doing will be showing you the first project, a very simple object that we'll be doing. So thank you very much.